Hey, thanks for joining us for This Week in Jacksonville Business Edition, our podcast where we focus on economic growth and development. Scott Brannock is joining us this week, the newly installed 82nd president of the Northeast Florida Builders Association, or NEFBA. So, Scott, I understand you're with Tidewater Homes, and really what you're doing now, you're leading one of the region's most influential business organizations. Tell us about what NEFBA does, and then we'll get into some more detailed questions about what that means to us and our economic situation here in Northeast Florida.
Absolutely. So NEFBA, as you mentioned, we are the largest builder association in the state of Florida, and we are the current 5th largest in the nation. So very powerful in what we do. We serve a lot of different missions, if you will. Networking, obviously, education, going from our apprenticeship program, which is a huge push for us right now. We're about to open our new 43,000 square foot workforce development center. From there, we do our basically our charitable. That's through our Builders Care, where we last year had, over 160 projects in Jacksonville that ranged from ramp builds for people that didn't have accessibility into their houses to replumbing projects, re-roofing projects. And then lastly, and probably most important, is our advocacy for our industry. Very active local, very active at the state, and very active also in DC to advocate for our industry.
Yeah, so as I understand it, representing more than 1,300 members from the home building and construction kind of ecosystem, if we look at it like that. Tell me about, I guess, the big picture of what's happening in our market, and are there some market constraints here as you go into just starting to lead here in 2026?
Yeah, so I mean, in 2026, obviously, our market, I feel like this year is going to be a little bit more normal.
Was 2025 not so normal? There's pullback or that kind of thing?
As you go into a year with a new president, there's some uncertainty there.
And not president of NEFBA, you're talking about on the federal scale.
The nation,
yes.
So there's uncertainty there. There's uncertainty in the markets. In 2025, we had a lot of bad words in our industry. Tariffs, mortgage rates are always a difficult thing that we've had to overcome in the past few years. But this year, I really think that rates are continuously to go down a little bit. Not anywhere where they used to be, but they're going to be more normal. It's going to be the new norm for our market. We're cooling on some of those tariff conversations. They're not necessarily affecting our region as much, just based on where we source our materials from. So we're really hoping for a more normal year. Our permit reporting for 2025 was not the best, coming off of just record years from that COVID period. Really for this year, we're hoping that those permits level out, the reporting levels out, and also starts to trickle back up some to where it should be.
So educate somebody. I'm an observer, but I'm not in the industry like you are. So if I go back 5 years, I know that still in 2021, people were able to, or 2020, I guess is a better comparative, still able to get those low mortgage rates. So if they're building new or if they're refinancing, all of that, that was part of that. But I know that we quickly saw the difficulty in getting the supplies to us. And so all of a sudden costs are rising, those mortgage rates went up. All of that seems like that had to affect us as we went through these last few years.
Well, it does. It changes the word affordability.
Sure.
Right now, everyone wants affordable housing. And affordable housing really goes across the board. That definition is different for everyone. But to achieve that affordable housing with, as you mentioned, the cost of materials, with the interest rates, we're fighting right now against different counties for impact fees and mobility fees and conservation fees. It's really made that affordable house a lot more difficult for these homeowners. And really, as you're talking about, county fees and whatnot, they're hitting the homeowner, no matter who they be, at the absolute worst time. Before they even have any equity in their house, it's almost like a hidden down payment that they have to pay. And it's making it very difficult for people to achieve whichever house they want to be in.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What would you say are the biggest bottlenecks to getting more housing delivered in 2026? Land, labor, materials, permitting, financing, and maybe which of those is most fixable in 2026?
I mean, our biggest obstacle right now is probably development. You know, you hear a lot that they may be anti-growth, anti-development, or managing growth. But when you manage growth, you ultimately increase the cost of the house to the end user. And what that creates is, it's not a deletion of families, but it's a disbursement of families. It's requiring these families to, you know, they want to be in Northeast Florida, but being in certain counties aren't achievable, so they have to move further out.
Yeah.
And what we seem to fail to understand of when we're talking about managed growth is when people move further out, they're all still coming back in. So that causes traffic issues, that causes all of our infrastructure to really be strained, which ultimately, if we were able to manage growth and develop smart within our counties, it keeps our residents here, it keeps the strain off of our infrastructure from people coming from areas that we're not used to.
Yeah. So you referenced this a moment ago when we were starting to talk about what Northeast Florida Builders Association is. Let me ask, what does success look like by year end? Because I know NEFBA emphasizes education, advocacy, networking, giving back, all of that. So if listeners to the podcast here check back at the end of your term this year, what are 2 or 3 measurable wins that we would be able to point to for
Absolutely.
NEFBA?
So our biggest win, I referenced it earlier, workforce development. We have placed such a huge emphasis on that to the point, as I said, we have acquired a 43,000 square foot building. So our apprenticeship program over the years, we've been homeless. We've had different universities and different places that have rented classroom space for us. So a few years ago, we sought after a home, and we identified that project at the end of 2024. In 2025, we started the build out of that project, and hopefully right now we're scheduled the first quarter of this year to wrap up construction and to move in all of our operations. And we will start class, our first classes will be held in August. So that's gonna be the biggest win for this year, is to have that program established in its home. We have carpentry labs, we have electrical labs, HVAC labs, plumbing labs, we have classroom space. So we are really focusing on generating that next generation for our industry, because right now, skilled trade labor is very difficult. And also changing the narrative that there is a place to be extremely successful within the construction industry in those respective trades for those individuals that college may not be the best fit for them. So that's probably the biggest win for us.
So is it that person you just described, I got out of high school, college is not my fit, I look for this, or is it also for that person who just got out of the military, they're looking for the next career? Hey, I'm tired of being in the office, I need to work with my hands, I need to transition.
So our biggest recruitment is out of high school. Our average age for our apprentice right now is right around 24. That is higher because we do veterans as they're coming out of the military. They're looking to get into the industry. They want to use their hands. Sitting behind a desk isn't for them. Yeah. So, having those veterans in the program is a huge aspect of what we do as well.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about affordability and what have you. I want to ask about maybe permitting, timelines, predictability. Builders often say that cost is only part of the problem, that time and uncertainty really matter too. Absolutely. So what are some of the delays most common in our region right now? What would a more predictable pro-growth approval process look like?
I mean, really on the building permitting side, it's gotten better. That timeline is starting to shrink. Some of the things that were implemented statewide helps. There are specific timelines that each county has to properly review and return comments and things of that nature. Some counties do a lot better than others, but you basically plan for that as you're going in for your plan reviews, things of that nature. Could it be better? Always. We're always going to, ask for faster, more thorough. The inconsistency of things don't necessarily match up from house to house. I think that could be an area where we can take away the question of, do I have everything? Because if you're creating a blueprint from the past permit that you did, you should be able to go through with no issues. That's not always the case.
Yeah, and that's where some of that frustration comes in, I'm
Yes.
sure.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So Scott Brannock is our guest today, the newly installed president of Northeast Florida Builders Association. Scott, I wanted to ask about maybe regional collaboration across, I guess, the councils. As I understand it, NEFBA has multiple councils: custom builders and remodelers, professional women in building, sales and marketing, and so on.
Right.
How does plus, I guess, county councils as well. How does this work, and what's the big opportunity there when you have these various councils?
I mean, all of our councils work very well together. They know that there's no one council that's bigger than any other. There's no one council that can really accomplish anything without the others. That's probably our...
No councils out there strong-arming everybody else. This is what we want.
Everyone knows that we all have a common goal. And everyone, no matter which council it is, we all work towards that goal. And having that goal, having that focus, all like-minded, really is what makes us as influential and powerful as NEFBA is.
Yeah. What about legislative priorities? We're in the middle right now of the legislative session in the state of Florida. That's 60 days or whatever. But I'm sure recognized lawmakers know, hey, I'm going to hear from and I'm going to talk with NEFBA about what the housing-related advocacy looks like from their perspective.
Great question. We actually just got back from Tallahassee last week. We had our state legislative conference, and the biggest thing on the ticket was impact fees. And within the state statute, there's a very important phrase of extraordinary circumstances. And the biggest ask that NEFBA and FHBA had was, let's define what that means. A lot of our counties or counties Florida-wide have implemented extraordinary circumstances to raise their impact fees higher than what should be allowed by the state law. But if you deem that extraordinary, you're allowed to go above and beyond. But no one has a true definition of what that means. So we're really advocating to push for a clear definition. That way, one, we can have a clear understanding of what to expect, but two, we can have accountability with local governments that term is not being used improperly.
Yeah, so it sounds familiar. Is this the Attorney General's office? It sounds like maybe the CFO for the state has kind of gotten in this in various counties. Hey, you're saying extraordinary circumstances, I don't buy it.
Yeah, I mean, they've both gotten involved. They give more so opinions on what they believe interpretation is. But really it comes back to the local builder associations to decide, is this a battle we want to fight? Yeah. We helped a fellow builder association back in the fall with Flagler as they were having a really big challenge in that area. And so we were able to help them out with some of their issues. So our collaboration just doesn't stop within NEFBA. It's really statewide. We're all here together. We support our local associations no matter where they are, and it's a really cool thing to watch.
So let's wind up here. I know we talked a little bit more earlier about affordability, attainable housing, and we know economic growth is great, but affordability is certainly what families feel. What specific policy or process change do you think at the city or county level across Duval, Clay, Nassau, St. John's, what have you, would kind of move the needle fastest on attainable workforce housing without sacrificing safety or quality?
I mean, the biggest thing is you hear affordable housing. You hear everyone say we need it. But then when you talk about where do we put it, no one seems to want it in their district. That's the not in my backyard thing. Everyone thinks it's a great idea until it's time to implement it. But also I think affordable housing in general, we have to change the way we look at it. an entry level or an affordable house is not a single family residence anymore. It's the cost to build those homes does not equal with all of the regulatory fees and everything else associated with it. So I think that we have to be more open to smarter development, whether that's duplexes, triplexes, quadplexes. Obviously, changing the narrative of what those are, it's not a bad thing. You can do them correctly and it actually enhances your neighborhood. But we have got to figure out a way to get those into all of our communities in order to really accomplish that affordable housing.
Optimistic about what 2026 holds?
I'm
As you
excited.
said, a more normal year, maybe?
Yeah, I'm excited. Our industry, construction is still very strong. We have great builders in Northeast Florida, both residential and commercial. We all are very optimistic about 2026. And I think as far as our market, new construction is going to lead mostly what you see on MLS and the sales that you see happening. I think it's going to be led by new construction. It's going to set that market and continue that for the whole year.
Scott Brannock, I appreciate getting to meet you and then talk through these issues, which are really important, and a lot of people very interested with hearing your perspective and what you're doing in leading the Northeast Florida Builders Association. Thanks for the time today.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for listening or watching here, our podcast, This Week in Jacksonville, Business Edition. Of course, we come out every Thursday at 9 a.m. And wherever you find your podcast, go ahead and like, subscribe, or follow.